Ooh, the cloud. Welcome back after this long, finally hot summer. But now we're ready for it to go away, right? Ready for fall. This is our first meeting of the 2022-23 year for us. And as such, we decided that we would spend some time celebrating and highlighting work that you've done. So this is really your meeting. And for those of you that submitted some work to share, I want to thank you. And I'm going to pull up a little PowerPoint here so that we can, just a second. Okay. Here we go. Can you all see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and let's everybody mute yourself. And if you have a question or want to make a comment, certainly unmute, but then that way it will rid us of some of the background noise. Okay. So we went out and solicited, as you know, a while back, some work from our members. Here's what I did this summer. Some of the work from the paint outs or that you might have done in your own backyard, or if you attended a class and you wanted to share something that you did in the class, anything that you did this summer that you think would be something people would like to see. So here we go. And by the way, you can, for those of you whose pieces are up here, if you could unmute yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about the piece if you want to, or let me know if you just want me to continue. So Alice.
Hi, yeah, just very quickly, this was a paint out from the Tacoma waterfront, the Chinese pavilion area. I was standing on the pavilion and looking down to the water. And these are the trees and bushes I saw. So I did that.
Okay, lovely.
Thank you.
Come on, it's trying to get this to go here.
This is a bonsai. Oh, I did this at the bonsai museum. It's I forgot the name of this, but the design is Chinese style. It's a pine tree, and they trim the branches to be square, square and turn kind of design. So that's the bonsai tree.
Nice.
And this is the Ikebana challenge, and this is they use the pine tree branches and some flowers together with the style design. So that's the Ikebana challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Judy. If you're muted.
Hello, am I there?
Yes, you are.
Okay, let's see. I did this one, and it is a sumi collage that I mounted on a cradle board. And yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. And there's my little goats. I created that from an art challenge group that I belong to on Facebook, and just had a lot of fun doing it. So that's about it.
Thank you.
You bet.
Muriel. Remember to unmute if you have something to say.
Am I with you now?
Yes.
Great. Oh, well, this was on the occasion when I think Dorothy and Melinda and Rosemary came down and painted in the garden, and I had picked a little bouquet for the table, and I, being the indoor person I am, sat at the table and did this little number. But anyhow, it was a fun day.
Wonderful. And Judy Walker, are you with us?
I am. I'm here. So this was just a watercolor and pastel and a little sumi ink on a small 2.5 by 2.5 piece of Arches text wove. And this was a result of taking Sally's Sumi Marks class that I enjoyed very much. In fact, so much that I'm taking it again in October.
Oh, I didn't realize you were taking it again. That's great.
Oh, yep. And again, this is just watercolor with sumi ink and some collage, a couple of pieces cut and put in. It just, I don't know, it just came out of my head. I wasn't looking at anything in particular. It just kind of came together as it came together.
Nice.
Thank you. And this also is a result of, all of these are a result of Sally's class on Sumi Marks. This is actually, it's a colored pencil with graphite for the shadowing and sumi ink on text wove, Arches text wove, again, 2.5 by 2.5.
That was from the Sumi and color part of the class.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Great. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Okay, yeah, this is a scroll that I made this summer, and it's written in Kaisho script on Hensetsu paper. It's unmounted. To give you an idea about the size of it, it's about 4.5 feet long and 13.5 inches wide. So the characters are quite large. But I wanted to share it with you today because of what it says. This is a sentence taken from a much larger work by a famous Chinese calligrapher, Sun Guoting. He wrote it in 687 AD, so it's very ancient. The larger work is in the National Museum in Taipei, Taiwan. It's all about calligraphy, what it is, how to do it, the mental aspects, what makes a good calligraphy, etc., etc. So this particular sentence is about the brush. And I think it'll resonate with Sumi painters as well as calligraphers. So now I will read what it means. When the brush is directed to move, it flows as if it is a stream of water gushing out of fountains. When it stops, it appears to be anchored like an immovable mountain resting firmly on the ground. So that's it.
Lovely. Thank you for translating it, Sarah. Okay, this was a quick piece I did to explore some new inks that I got from the Netherlands, Bister inks. So it's Sumi, and these are stamped in toilet paper rolls. And then I used the Bister inks to test the various colors, very earthy colors. They were just wonderful. And then I wrote this little haiku, autumn's effervescence, bubbles up, then down. And these were the two pieces that I did, or two of the pieces that I did for the Ikebana challenge. And again, very enamored with Ikebana. And so I wrote a couple of little haiku, wabi sabi at its very best, Ikebana. Visual appeal draws the eye, Ikebana. And then this was the little painting that I did at the bonsai garden. It was a coast redwood. And what I haven't done is gone in and defined the pine needles a little bit better. And I plan to do that, but this was the base. Yukiko, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Good.
You hear me? Okay. Hello, I'm Yu. Nice to meet you all. This was a challenge that I did for the Sumi Society of America, and it's based on a poem by Tao Yuan Ming. And basically, he worked for the government and got really fed up with the corruption. So
Unknown caller.
he works, so he lives as a hermit. And then this is where he is picking chrysanthemums to make chrysanthemum wine. And he looks up at the southern mountain, which is Mount Lu, I guess. And he's just awed by how the sunset captures the mountain, and his mind is just void of worldly thoughts and is just in a kind of a dream of his own. And I need to capture that moment.
It's just lovely.
And this is a painting that was accepted by the jury exhibition of the Sumi Society of America this year. So the first time I ever entered, so I'm really happy and humbled.
It's nice.
And this is what I did for the Ikebana challenge. And the most challenging part of doing a Ikebana painting was the space. For Ikebana, I think it just, if you literally take that, the spacing, the paper looks really too much white space in it. So I did a circle at end, and it seems like that kind of settled the composition.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Barb, are you here?
Yes, I am. Hi, this piece actually is not new. I did it probably 5 years ago, and I got so tired of still having it that I decided I would go on a campaign to try and find a buyer. So I was sending out emails to individuals listed on the Architectural Digest 100 list of designers. And I got to the D's, having sent out numerous queries and no interest. And I got to the D's, and lo and behold, a gentleman from New York City responded very quickly and said, I'm very interested in this piece. And by the way, I like some of what's going on in this. Could you do a logo for me? So anyway, it was a wonderful experience. It's the first time that I've had to ship a relatively large piece like this. It's about 27 by 41. And it was an extremely rewarding experience and very encouraging to sell this piece and to do the logo work for this individual. So that's pretty much that.
Great story.
Thank you. So this is more where I'm going now, and I'm using Sumi and Sumi Collage as a springboard to explore combining Sumi work with digital markup. And with the exception of the background, it's all done digitally, meaning I'm taking a photograph of my collage and then working in my phone in the photo feature on my phone, photo editing feature on my phone, to make all of the black marks that you see here. And where this came from, I was in the process of reading a lovely little book called 7 Brief Lessons in Physics. And my mind was just all consumed with all things cosmic. And so that's kind of what inspired this. And I ended up calling it Black Holes Forest. So that's what that's about. But anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with this. And I love the fact that I can duplicate my photo and then mark it up. And by duplicating it, I still have that original photo to go back to if I don't like what happened in my first experiment. So it's sort of like tearing the paper up, but I can go back and work on it a little bit more.
That's great. It's kind of like what people are doing with giclées these days. They're having giclée prints made of the base and then going back and reworking them, so they become new forms of art. So
Oh,
it's,
and I guess I forgot. This piece I had listed on my listing through Saatchi Art, which is a global online gallery that some of you may be aware of. And a buyer in London, an art consultancy there, bought 4 copies of this as a print and as a digital print. So in that case, Saatchi Art created the prints and shipped them. I didn't have anything to do with that part of it. They bought the image from me and took it from there, and they could order it in many different sizes. What they ordered were 4 that I believe were something like 22 by 44, something like that.
wow, what's not to like about that process?
Yeah,
That's great.
so that's it.
Patsy.
This is a quite large piece, 24 by 40. And I'm always looking for the thoughts to translate into the viewer. They might get some ideas. And I wanted to emphasize the background wall. This symbolizes 2 peonies, different species, to indicate myself and my husband. And the wall behind is to prevent for me to go back to Korea. I no longer am able to live in Korea as a Korean citizen. So this is a symbolic gesture of what I felt with the myself and the wall behind. That's
Wonderful.
it. It's a sumi on rice paper.
That's good. Nice story behind it. Dorothy.
This is sumi ink and watercolor layers and layers, and the final disposition of it is digital.
Okay.
And this is and that piece and this one are called adjustments. I'm going through an adjustment of how I'm working, what my studio space is like. And this one was after an immersion in Sally's class about making brushes. And that was such an important class to me, and recently, so I guess we get to call this summer. And I made a brush and did this little sumi stroke with it, and I just I'm having a good time making an adjustment. So that's it.
Great. Okay, and then Emily and Dorothy wrote a couple of Haiga Tanrenga. So I don't know which of you, this is, remember, it's 3 lines by one and then 2 lines by another. They're linked. And I believe Emily did the illustrations for these. There are 3 of them. So
Okay,
one of you.
Yeah, now the deal is Emily is not able to be here, but you have her pictures, and I have a list of the Tanrenga. So I'm going to try to match up here. Let's see. Okay, this one is Over the Pond, Gossamer Wings in Cotillion Swirl, Hovering at Twilight, Perigee Moon. And that is Emily's sumi painting. And then the way we've got these, my initials are by the lines I did, and her initials are by the lines she did. and we worked on these by phone and email together.
Wonderful.
Okay, this one is the frontispiece of a small booklet of these tanranga that we're putting together. Rings within rings, family and friends gather at the picnic table. Red onions and potatoes cut for salad.
Well, it looks like we're missing a line there. I'll have to add at the picnic table.
Yeah, gather at the picnic table.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay. And this one is also you've got them on the side there. Okay. This is called Changing Weather. One thing about this poetry form is that the third line of the 3-line part needs to make a transition to the 2-line part, and so we often have a good time working on that. Heron feeding at the web tide, streak of blue sky, water glazed sand reflects weather changes. And she's
Very nice.
yeah, and so the same thing applies to this as it does to Haiga, that the image is related to the poem, but it is not illustrative of the poem. So that we're working toward that.
Great. And then we had our summer paint outs, 3 of them this summer. The first, June 25th at the Tacoma Waterfront and Chinese Pavilion. And then July 30th at the Pacific Bonsai Museum in Federal Way. And that was like a 95-degree day. It was really toasty. So we all worked together in the one shaded spot that they had there. But that was a wonderful experience. And then August 27th was the Yashiro Japanese Garden in Olympia. And because I'm in the process of moving, I stopped by and took a lot of pictures, and I hope to do some paintings from those pictures, but I couldn't join the crew that was there, but it seemed like a lovely place to be working and doing a paint out. So those were our 3 paint outs this summer. And then I taught a class in August called Make a Brush and Carve a Chop. And we had 3 members that were there. So I thought I would highlight the brushes that they made. Judy Walker and Melinda Broadham and Dorothy Matthews were in that class. And this is Melinda's. You can see the chops that she carved here. And Melinda, by the way, Melinda and Ted, her husband, donated this beautiful black bamboo so that everybody in the class could make a brush with a beautiful black bamboo handle. So that was really quite fun. And then we added a bead and a loop so that you could hang your brush the way it should be hung to let it dry. These are unique brushes in that they come to these really wonderful points so that you can make strokes and marks that you simply can't make with other brushes. So that was fun. And that's it. So for all of you that shared something, and listen, let's not stop this. If you have something in the course of the year that you've created, a painting, some shodo calligraphy, a haiga, send them to me, and maybe we'll take a few minutes at the end of each meeting and do some more sharing, because I think it's always inspiring and fun to see what everybody else is doing. So with that, I'll stop the share. And also ask if anybody has something that you have there by your side that you'd like to hold up. We could certainly do that as well. So be thinking about that. And in the meantime, I am going to Get rid of that one, and I'm going to pull up the Sumi Small Work Show and show you that one. Okay. Always takes a minute to pull these things up. So if you remember from the prospectus that this was work that was all less than 8 inches in size, excuse me. And it's really a shame that it didn't get more exposure this summer because it was a lovely little show. I got to enjoy it almost every day when I came down to my studio, but unfortunately others didn't. So this is an opportunity for you to walk through the gallery with me. Okay, less than 8 inches on any dimension, and artists could submit up to 6 pieces. So several of the artists did submit 6 pieces. And it was an opportunity, I think, for many people to try the cradled board, the 8x8 cradled boards for the first time, because we had a lot of the work that came up on the 8x8 boards, pieces mounted on the cradled boards. So the artists that participated were Melinda, Judy Kalin, Dorothy Matthews, myself, Celinda Sheridan, Muriel Taylor, and Mitsuko Toyama. Melinda did a series of these patchwork collages that were really interesting and stitched together. So Melinda, do you want to say something about these?
Oh, I was inspired by my pile of practice sheets, and so I cut up sort of interesting parts of them when I was practicing, learning actually how to paint insects and practicing calligraphy and doing some monoprinting with leaves from my garden. And I had a lot of scraps that I thought were interesting, and I used to do a lot of quilting. And so I still do collage and sew on paper. So that was the first one I did, just with bits of different practice that I have done in the past. And so then the other 2 that I submitted to the Small Work Show were inspired by that. And they were also scraps from monoprinting, calligraphy practice, and Sumi practice that I did. And
those are just wonderful.
I think the squares were like 1 inch. Thank you.
Okay, I want to give people a chance to look at these.
Hey,
Judy.
Sally, I can't see anything. It just shows you have started screen sharing, but it doesn't download. It's just going around and around. So I guess you're seeing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, now I've lost your voice. So I may go out and try coming back in again.
Oh, Judy,
Yeah.
If you're still there, I can tell
I'm
you
here.
right now we're looking at Simple Maui on the left and Wacky Village on the right.
Yes.
Well, I'm looking at a black screen.
Right. So if you, and all 4 of these were there 6 or 4?
I'm not quite sure.
We'll see as we continue here, but
Been a long time.
They're all just really interesting and all kind of the same abstract expressionism sort of thing.
Yeah, I created these while I was down in Arizona this last year, and just had a lot of fun doing them, a lot of comments from people, and yeah, it was fun.
And now we're looking at Emerald City and the Blessed Church.
Yes.
Same thing. This is
Same
obviously Seattle. This is
Yeah.
the Space Needle here.
Oh yeah.
And the on the Blessed Church, the background, how did you achieve that splattered effect?
Well, that is a special, oh gosh, Fumiko taught us this technique years and years ago. It's with milk.
Oh, right.
You have a resist, and you just splatter the milk on first, and then you wait for it to dry, and then you go over it on the other side.
It's really effective. So thank you. I'm sorry you can't see them. I know you're having some technical difficulties today.
Yeah.
Dorothy.
Let's see. Okay, these are uncradled board and using Sumi ink and watercolor, and they're both Haigas. Do you want me to read them?
Sure.
Okay. And the cherry tree fractals is a giclée print. And it says, one day then gone, the cherry tree's arched fractals from trunk to bud. And then I smile, weeds in my bucket, and the first yellow.
That's great.
And then both of these are giclée prints on the cradled board, and I think the pink background is actually white, but it didn't come out that way.
Oh. That was probably my photography as I was going through this video.
That's all right. It's all right. It's the values are still there. And
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, the ones that I submitted were all, you can see they were on the 8x8 cradled board painted black, but then my background is black, so it's hard to see. And these are on the Shizen handmade paper rounds. And I did a series of them, and hanging from the cradled board are pieces of calfskin vellum with haiku, some by the masters, and this one in the middle is one I wrote. I particularly like this one. Cool. This is sort of like trying to get to the essence of something so that it's sort of relates to the words, but the viewer is still, can still interpret it the way they want. Coolness, the sound of the bell as it leaves the bell. I enjoyed doing that one. And this one is I go, you stay, 2 autumns. And that was a Busan. And this one is Winter Garden, the moon thinner to a thread, insects singing. So these two were both about insects, sort of, which is why the Asemic writing is in here. Mosquito in my ear, does it think I'm deaf? And that was an Isa. And then a very simple little Sumi flower that we had sitting on the entry table to the show. And Celinda, I had a number of lovely pieces. Celinda, are you with us? She was having some issues with Zoom, so I'm not sure that she is with us today. But she had a lot of variety in her pieces that were just lovely. Radiance over here, openings, nice techniques with her Sumi. This one uses some envelope paper in a collage that she calls Empty Full. And I particularly liked this one. This is on one of those rounds as well, mounted on the 8x8 cradled board. And she called that Inland Waters. Talk about the wondrousness of simplicity, only this. And everything flows. That's a beautiful piece. And Muriel. Are you
I'm sorry, it takes me to get to unmuting.
right?
So Still Evening is a fragment of a painting I did, and I wasn't too crazy about the painting, but I like this quite a little bit better. And forsythia is was originally attached to a haiku ringa, tonringa that Melinda and I did together. And it was forsythia and then the dandelion fluffs.
Lovely. And I'd like to just add that the one on the left sold. So you should like this painting. Better.
I like it better now.
Yeah. Mitsuko, are you with us? Oh, I guess she's not. These were both, I think I cropped this so it doesn't look like an 8x8, but both of them were on cradled boards. Lovely in their simplicity. And then we also had the Childhood's End Gallery in Olympia. We had the Ikebana and Ink exhibit where we shared the stage with the Tacoma International or Tacoma chapter of the International Ikebana Society, which Reed Osaki is a member. And so there were some of his lovely vessels there. And we were surrounded by some pretty nice Ikebana too for this show. It was lovely. And I hope some of you were able to stop and see it. We had a great reception too in June. So that is it. And I have one more thing that I would like to share with you. You remember I wrote an article for the newsletter on my retreat when I was what I called channeling Toko Shinoda, and how much I enjoyed really studying her concepts of simplicity and the rule of 3 that I always teach in my design classes. And there were a few of the pieces in the newsletter, but I put together a little slideshow for a Sumi class I taught for a Chicago group a couple of weeks ago. And so I thought I would just share that with you too, so you can see a few more of those pieces. So hold on while I pull up yet one more. And get to the slideshow here. And as I said, this was something I created back in August for a class I was teaching. So starting out with, because I talk a lot about the 8 key lessons from Sumi A. And what really made me intrigued with Toko Shinoda's work, and by the way, she just died this last year at the age of 107, and she was painting right up until her last breath, I think. So she was pretty amazing. But if you remember these 8 key lessons from Sumi, she just nailed every one of them in her work. First one was more can be expressed with less. Never use more color when less will do. Omit useless details to expose the essence. Always looking for that essence. Careful use of light dark is important for creating clarity, and contrast is very important too. Use color with a clear purpose and informed intention. Clear contrast, visual suggestion, and subtlety can all exist together harmoniously in one composition. And in all things, balance, clarity, harmony, and yes, simplicity. And this last one that is so true, what looks easy is hard. And I learned that the hard way this summer when I was working, but I so enjoyed the process of focusing on it. And here are some of the pieces. I incorporated a little bit of walnut ink in with my Sumi to sort of give it that a couple of the strokes some warmth. And I also used a China marker in a lot of them, and incorporated some asemic writing as well. So you can see it was fun to layer. And I even incorporated some of those, remember those, excuse me, sumi infused bubbles?
Mm.
There was some of that work in there too. But that little tiny bit of walnut ink, I was really pleased with how it warmed the piece.
It's
And I was-
exquisite, Sally.
Oh,
exquisite.
thank you, Judith. I was also experimenting with dry brush and trying to get that movement, the directional movement into it. But you can see that I was going for the contrast and the simplicity and the rule of 3. More of the sumi infused bubbles. Those are awfully fun when you get some that are a little crazy and a little different.
Sally, I just love your work.
Oh, thank you. And this one, I loved the movement of this stroke that came up and the contrast of what happens with the asemic writing next to it. And this was a wonderful folded pen that I have that splatters. It didn't splatter too much on this, but I love the way it splatters. And these tendrils were created, and I liked what it did here with a dust blower, the kind of thing that you use on your computer keyboard to remove the dust. And you get those wonderful little tendrils happening, which is great. Then I also did some more work with my simple watercolor flowers that are just fun to experiment with. I'm going to be doing some of these in the painted papers class that I'm going to teach in December. So that's that.
Thank you.
Well, you're certainly welcome. I'm happy to share. But that's the kind of thing that if you are doing a series or something like that, we'd love to highlight what you're doing. I think it can be inspirational for others. So there you go.
I have one thing to share.
Okay.
And this was first because I joined, your group. You accepted me. I did do my first photo haiga, and they were published in Richard's new book. So I'm hoping to do more sumi and collage this next time.
Oh, wonder, we'd love to see the results of your efforts. So share them with us when you work on them.
Right. And that book is available now. It's it was put together by the Commencement Bay Haiku, and the Richard she's talking about is Richard Tice, who leads that group. He was the inspiration for it, and the book is going to be available as soon as I've got the information on it. I'll get it to the newsletter, but it's not totally the how you buy it is still in process, but the book is done.
Great, thank you.
10-year anthology of Commencement Bay Haiku.
Oh, a 10-year anthology is
a 10-year anthology, and it has sumi work, sumi haiga by some of the people of Haiga Adventure in Haiga Adventure.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be fun to share that. As a matter of fact, we should highlight the work of our people at one of our meetings.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that.
Okay, that sounds good.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about David's newly published book.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I can do that.
Oh, good. David, are you here?
I'd like to hear more about your mom and her, her life as an artist. I mean,
well,
hired you.
Well, hang on.
Good. Give me time to replace the spotlight here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is the cover.
The
And
music in us.
my mom is going to be 91 early next year. And she's been painting since she was 14 when on the East Coast she was taken to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and she saw El Greco's view of Toledo. And it struck her as an epiphany. And she decided she'd be an artist. So she started painting in the basement next to the ping pong table. And she lives in Manhattan. And also over the summer, she paints in upstate New York. And so she goes back and forth like that. And she's been a very dedicated artist for many years. And she had an interesting, I'd say, transformation. People don't generally change, but both my parents, I think, really changed. And they had been living an upper middle class life in Connecticut, and they divorced. And my mom moved into Manhattan and became a downtown artist. She moved to Soho before it was Soho. And my dad kind of moved uptown and changed his life. So they both evolved or really changed, which I think is unusual. I don't think people change all that fundamentally. Anyway, so I said she moved downtown. This was in the 70s. She took up with a Czech glass blower and went backpacking in South America for 6 months. This was way before you could communicate. It was like, well, okay, you know, bye, Mom. And I didn't hear from her for 6 months, except that at that time, people were taking Kodak slides and they had these prepaid mailers. So I was at college and one day, every now and then I'd get an envelope from Kodak with slides. And then I would see, oh, look, that looks like Mom at Lake Titicaca in Bolivia. Or, oh, that looks like that. So that was kind of fun. Anyway, she's been an artist for many years. This is her work from her middle and late career. And it's she moved from abstract to more figurative work. I mean, very diverse work. So, but she's always been a very empathetic person. So she responds to kind of society and what she experiences around her. And also, I guess you'd call her, she focused on women's attitudes for a long time too. But let's see. Well, her work is so diverse, this covers 50 years. But okay. So after she went to Papua New Guinea for 3 months to get her MA, she started to do some kind of work that was these unusual stick figures. That was back in the 80s. Moved toward more figurative work. This is Janet and me. She did work that was a little darker, kind of Holocausty. It's sort of kind of that's called Forced Solitude. It's the overall series, I think, was called For Those Who Have Died with Music in Them. She did a lot of political work for a while. She went down and visited a prisoner in Florida. He was a Black Panther who was in prison for ostensibly shooting a policeman. And this gentleman learned the shakuhachi in prison. My mom is a shakuhachi player. She's taken up the shakuhachi. And so isolation and aloneness has been a theme of hers quite a bit. And so that kind of encapsulated. And she did a lot of women. These is women of Woolworths, a certain kind of woman she would see in upstate New York and also in Manhattan. Typically older women, forgotten women of society. quite a few landscapes. When she's upstate, she tends to paint more landscapey and a little humorous, and sometimes a little sardonic when men are considered. And this. Here's another one that's kind of amusing.
Those are wonderful, David.
Yeah, she did a Holocaust series. You know, she was getting in touch with her Jewish roots.
David, what's the story behind the title?
Well, it's a little bit of the title was so hard because her work is so diverse. And it's a little bit of a play on, for those who have died with the music in them, which is itself a riff on, what's his name? Was it the poet or the Supreme Court Justice, Oliver Wendell Holmes? It was either the senior or the junior who had a comment like that. And since her work is so diverse, but it's always this empathy to the human condition. And that's why the idea of the music in us. And then some more abstract things, semi-abstract anyway. And travel has always been very important in her artwork. So she went to Ethiopia to see the Timkat ceremony, which is in the January of every year. It reenacts Christ being baptized, or St. John the Baptist and the baptism, and they sprinkle water up all over people. So that was that. And then lately it's been, here's Mama Violet. And then lately, because as I said, she's sort of empathetic and responsive. So with the COVID, this is the asylum. And it's kind of like breaking out of our isolation. So yeah, that's an overview. Here's a picture of her in her upstate barn holding one of those works that were inspired after her trip to Papua New Guinea. So
well, what a fabulous experience for you to be able to put this book together.
Well, it's the same publisher that published Fumiko's book. And so the design is lovely. The reproductions are fabulous. Her work was not especially well organized. And so it was a good, fun experience. My sister and I spent a week going through her slides, and half of it's slides, as it used to be. Half of it was on discs, everything unlabeled. It was a nightmare to put it into chronological order and to figure it out. Just a tremendous job. But I'm glad we did it. And so we have a sense, or she has her own sense of how her work evolved and exists in time, evolved over time, and her own personal biography, which was, as our lives are, very complicated and interesting. So she still lives alone in Manhattan and paints regularly.
It's available now?
Yeah, it's available from the publisher, Chin Music Press. They had a little confusion. The books have just arrived and they're in the warehouse, but they actually, for some reason, they listed the publication date as September 13th, 2023.
Oh.
So that error was just caught. So it'll probably be another week or so till it's on Amazon, but it is available right now from Chin Music Press, free shipping. So it's almost the same as ordering from Amazon. And Chin Music Press is a local artisan press, and it's well worth supporting a local press. That's CHIN MUSIK. And yeah, it's on their website. You might have to look around, but I'm happy to send the link. I could send the link.
I just peeped the Betty Alexander website itself, and her work is very well organized, and it's bold and it's beautiful. But you guys, everyone spelled Betty with an E, not a Y. That's
Oh.
your tip from Teacher Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, actually, I think there is a link to buy the book on her website. BettyAlexander.com. Thank you. Yeah, BETTE.
It's wonderful, David.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Wonderful work.
David.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
That's
for
been
asking.
quite a process for you too.
Well, these
for some.
books, as Kathy well knows, are huge undertakings. They're multi-year efforts. So this one actually got done much quicker than some. It was very, very compressed, very focused effort to do it. It was a lot of fun, and it kind of helped bring our family together a little bit to work on this project with my sister and my mom, and constantly call, well, what about that divorce, Mom? Come on, what was going on there? You know,
Yeah.
that was kind of interesting, and all the ins and outs of her life. But I was glad to get all the stories while she remembers them.
Right.
As you get into your 90s, your memory becomes less reliable often. So I think we got most of the stories and information in the nick of time.
Well, thank you
Richard.
for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
I wanted to comment on the one piece of the man and woman dancing. Yeah, one somehow that picture of Renoir of the couple dancing, the romance in that, I thought she had captured with.
Dances are very popular. I don't know if you know the actress Gabby Hoffman. She was in film and TV, Come On, Come On, Transparent, and Girls. Anyway, she loves Betty's dancers, and she's a collector of her dancers. Here's some more of the dancers.
But there was one specifically of just a man and a woman you
Yeah,
had.
I showed that one, but I showed this one.
Yes, yes.
I love the way she used masses of color in the dancers.
So this is interesting. I'll just mention, she uses a material that I don't think has ever been discussed at any of our meetings. They're called oil sticks, and they're essentially oil paint in a crayon. The crayons are pretty fat. They're like a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch or even larger. And they're literally oil paint in a stick. And you can put the color on and make a background very quickly. So they're a little bit like a brush in the sense of a sumi brush, in the sense of it's your hand, and the motion of your hand is very reflected in what the marks that appear. And also there's a lot of gesture and marking that goes on. So there's the oil thing. I mean, if you paint with the palette and the oil brush and you're dibbling, it's not like that. It's you're creating, it's more like a drawing, or a cross between a drawing and a painting.
But
So
it's on canvas? Is it done on canvas? Or?
You can put it on canvas, you can put it on board. She works on paper.
Oh.
So, and it's this idea that it's a little bit like drawing, except they end up being paintings. But it's encourages spontaneity.
Is it an oil bar, David?
Yeah, it's like an oil bar.
Oil bar, yeah.
So I actually learned quite a bit the difference between like oil pastels, oil crayons. I had a very interesting interview with the manufacturer of these art crayons, oil crayons. So that was kind of interesting.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
My pleasure.
I'd love to get the book.
Yeah.
Well, probably going to her website and ordering it directly from the publisher is great, because you help support a small press.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, who wants to follow that? Anybody else have something they'd like to share? Something you did this summer that we'd all like to hear about? Well, this was a good sharing meeting. I would like to encourage us to continue this type of thing because, as I said, I think it's good inspiration for everybody to see what's going on. And we have so many different, totally unique styles in Puget Sound Sumi artists that I think we can all learn from each other.
I have something to share.
Okay, who's talking?
Janelle.
Okay, let me find you, Janelle. Okay. There we are. Okay.
Can you see?
Yes. It's lovely.
Colors, beautiful colors.
Thank you.
Watercolor, it's very transparent, the layering and everything that you've got going on there. Is it
It's just watercolor.
watercolor?
Yeah.
Thank you. And it's on paper, right? Is that a
Yeah.
300-pound watercolor paper?
300 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks
Right.
pretty sturdy. Well, thanks, Janelle. It's good. Anybody else? Okay, I don't want to.
I did brought up the wrong sketchbook, but I've got a nice poppy that I did, and I didn't do it just recently, but it's a one of those white Matillihas. And
so who's talking?
Sheila
Sheila.
Scott.
Oh, Sheila.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll find you here.
So I just found this in one of my old sketchbooks. It's not this summer, but it's kind of a fun little copy. And I think I
Lovely.
use this for greeting cards, and you put a chop in there when I print the cards. So thought you might enjoy that. It's pretty basic.
Wonderful. The simplicity is just getting the essence through the simplicity is just lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, well, let's see if no one else has anything, then that pretty much ties up our meeting for today. And for the good of the order, I'd just like to mention again that if you're interested in shadowing any of us for a while and maybe joining us on the board, we'd love to have you. So contact me if you'd like to join us for the board meetings. They're fun. We move quickly. So anything else from anybody before we tie off today?
You know, I just wanted to say one thing. I have some things that are going down to Tacoma from Seattle here in Ballard on Thursday for the Nola Tressler had put an ad in the newsletter or in one of the summer newsletters about the coffee. I can't remember the last word of it. It's a place to benefit homeless youth in Tacoma. And I have some paintings that I'm going to submit to that. And while I was gathering those together, I pulled together a lot of paper and materials and cardstock, like beautiful foam core and mat board and things that I can't use anymore, and three rather large frames. And I'm going to talk to Dorothy about that for the auction. I've tried to get in touch with Nola. I sent her an email yesterday, but I'd like to have those things go to PSSA. There are a couple of scissories in there, a collection of beautiful fans, and things that I just need to move along. So I'm going to talk to Dorothy after this meeting, and I'm going to see if they can fit in the car that is coming on Thursday to carry these other pieces down to Nola's friend, who's in PSSA. I think her name is Nellie Bell. Does that ring a bell? No, I guess it wouldn't with you. She's connected with the coffee place. It's putting on the auction. But when you said auction in December, I thought maybe some of these things would fit better. The ones that are specifically going to Nola's attention will go into the PSSA auction.
Well, thank you, Sheila. That's great. And, you know, if some of the rest of you are going through what I'm going through right now with a move and yet another downsizing, think about PSSA. Think about that auction coming up in December, because there are a lot of things that you have that are just lovely and probably have a lot of sentimental value to you, but you'd like to see them go to a good home. And I can't think of a better place than to one of your PSSA members.
Mhm. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, and we just started talking about the auction really today at the board meeting. So you'll be hearing more about it, and we'll figure out a place that we can funnel these donations to. So stay tuned for that. Anybody else? Well, I thank you all for a good meeting today. Felt like we're coming together nicely for the beginning of our year, and I hope we can continue doing that. And again, we can arrange for some sharing at the end of each meeting. So be thinking about that. Something you'd like to share. If you'd like to send me a JPEG ahead of time, I can pull it up on the screen, or if you'd like to just hold it up, that's great too. But people want to see what you're doing. So,
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, Sally.
Okay, Sally,
Thank you,
I'd just like to
Sally.
send out a 10-4. 10-4. That's the date of our next meeting.
Oh, 10-4. 10-4, good buddy. Okay, see you all then.
Thanks, Sally.
Bye-bye.
Bye.